Curling now enters the Sports Weekend spotlight.
Emotional, no doubt. Hi again, sports fans, and good morning to you, Colleen. You must be exhausted. What a heart-wrenching day at the Ice Cube.
I think everybody's a little just exhausted, and what just happened yesterday. It still, when I look at those pictures of Jennifer Jones, when I think of Brad Gushu's game as well, it says not the outcome you thought was ever going to happen in either case.
No.
Especially in Jennifer Jones's case, because there were all of those scenarios. It seemed pretty simple. Japan wins, you're going through. And then the very last of the scenarios played out, where all of a sudden it is a tie. And it was, it's hard to process. And I was just sitting at the Ice Cube. I can't imagine what it's like for the curlers.
Spellbinding and goosebump raising scenes that played out yesterday. Yeah, like you said, Call, there were all of these situations across all of the sheets, and you're watching it all unfold. Jennifer Jones and her team come out firing against Denmark, take care of business, and then that agonizing wait. And it was like death by 1,000 paper cuts, wasn't it? Because you watched all of these scenarios play out across the sheets, and it was like, this can't be happening, and not this missed shot and not that result. And then it finally came down to Sweden and Korea, and Sweden finally ending it.
Yeah. And for a while, it looked like ROC was coming back against Great Britain until the ninth end. So just even Korea for a moment looked like, oh, they're going to beat Sweden, but no. Right. So it's just real interesting. You're right. It was like the death by a million cuts there. Yeah. But to watch them on the wing waiting for all of those games to finish. And last stone draw is brand new to the Olympics, and let's face it, both Japan and Great Britain were this much ahead of Canada only. Right. It's like Johnny and Rachel losing that measurement by that much. They weren't that much better than them. They were the best of the worst of the last stone drawers.
Yeah, wrong side of the centimeter for Canadian curlers at the Olympics. We're going to get to our expert panel shortly to digest all of this. But of course, I know many of the people here tonight, curling fans, want to hear from Jennifer Jones' call. And what a brave, courageous thing of her to do, to say, I want to come on the show. She texted me after that loss, and she said, I want to be on your show, and I want to speak to Canadians, because this is Canada's Olympics as much as it is mine. And I think that tells you a lot about what type of person she is and what type of champion she is.
Well, she just keeps moving forward is what I like about her. Like, it's almost like, well, that happened. There was nothing she could do about these rules, these new rules in play, except sometimes, rather than, because we had a provincial tournament that was decided that way, where you were eliminated on that. And sometimes the way you have to look at it isn't about the last stone draw, just that if you had taken care of China the night before, the other losses, see, Sweden and Switzerland never had to worry about all of this. Japan wouldn't have had to worry about it if they had won their game. Suddenly, this brought all of that into play. So this is going to be probably the new normal going forward. They don't have time for tiebreakers at the Olympics, or they say they don't have time for tiebreakers. And the last stone draw is going to be like a game within the game. So remember, that last stone draw is just not just important to win the hammer in the first end, but obviously the cumulative factor of it is something people have to get used to. So in that case, perhaps it's time to think about bringing this similar, I hate saying this, thing in Canada, because we need to get used to it, and we need to kind of realize, nail this, and have the same intensity of last stone draw.
the reality of it is something has to change, right? Something has to change because
Yeah.
you've gone back-to-back Olympics now where Canadian curlers, potentially, we have this bronze medal game tonight, but are going to be off the podium. That's not to say these curlers didn't pour their hearts into it, but
Right.
Gushu in that post-game interview, lamented the fact that there were games throughout the week that they didn't play their best. And Jen, speaking to you, said there were about 6 shots she would like back.
Well, and if it's only 6 shots, that means you had a pretty darn good Olympic Games.
Right.
It's an odd schedule at the Olympics. Some days you play 2 games, times you play 1 game. Both Jennifer and Brad had a full day off. And
Mhm.
that ain't good ever, because you want to keep your momentum going all the time. So it's an interesting schedule here. I mean, you won't see that at the World Championship having a day off, but
Right.
even that takes a while for Canadians to get used to. So,
Mm.
and let's not discount the fact of COVID Olympics and how absolutely bizarre it was for them to play in front of so few fans,
Mm.
so quiet. You
Mm.
could hear, I mean, I didn't have to have John Schuster or Matt Hamilton's microphones on because I had Team Canada in my earphones, but I could hear them while I was on a headset, their live voice on the
Right.
ice.
No
It
kid.
was that quiet. So
Go
they
ahead.
both thrive in big moments of the crowd noise, of that fist pump that's got a reaction, of the roar of the crowd. Both Jennifer and Brad love that. And Brad spoke about that, about the bubble wasn't good for him in Calgary last year because of that, the whole
Right.
environment. Well, they bubbled before the Olympics and got into another bubble here.
Yep.
Strange.
Fans of curlers watch this show. We know that for a fact. So let us know where you're watching from and what you want to say to the curlers. Sophie, producer Sophie's getting all your comments up at the bottom of the screen. Let's go to our panel who watched this all unfold, and it was compelling, it was riveting, it was gut-wrenching, and it was exhausting, wasn't it, Joanne?
I need some self-care. So sorry to interrupt the show, guys, but that's where we're at. What a freaking 24 hours, hey, for Team Canada.
Why don't we start right there, Joe? You've been at the games. You've been in this exact position. Some reflection.
Yeah, for one thing, I'm very proud of both the teams. They admit that they had games where they weren't at their best, where they weren't exactly where they wanted to be, but they fought so hard until the end. Particularly Brad Gushu's team, like having those 2 losses leading into the semifinal, the way that they came out was just outstanding. And it was such a good game and so close right down to the last rock that they have so much to be proud of, as does Jennifer Jones. They played great against Denmark after a really tough loss against China. Would have been easy to throw in the towel there. So just that resilience and how hard they tried. And then on top of that, just the openness post game, like to see that emotion out of Brad Gushu, who like often I don't even know if he has a pulse out there. So to open up like that, to be vulnerable, to say how he's feeling, sharing that with Canada, just absolutely commend him for that. And I think the only emotion we can feel is pride. And as you mentioned, let's look at the system. Let's look at what we can do better and try to give our athletes the best chance to succeed when they're on that stage. But as far as the athletes themselves go, I chills. They're just phenomenal teams, and I couldn't be happier with them.
Bruce, you were having to narrate all of this. What was that experience like for you?
You know, Devin, as we were doing that today, my mind was kind of drifting off to kids watching this across the country. And I was thinking, what does sport teach us? And I think 2 of the big things are you win with humility, but you lose with grace. And I thought back to Colleen in 2003 in Winnipeg, where I was ringside, and she lost just a crasher to the U.S. after going undefeated all week. And the first thing she did when she lost was come over and do an interview with me with tears in her eyes. Thought of Kevin Martin in 2009 when he threw that thing through the rings and the world collapsed on him. And the next week he was there to do an interview. And today, imagine yourself with just devastation around you. You've trained for this forever. You've quarantined from family. You've put your heart, your soul into it. You lose. And one of the first things you do is go talk to the country. Right? You win with humility, you lose with grace. And I think if you were a young kid in Canada watching this today, you, by symbiosis, learned a tremendous amount about what sport is through Team Gushu and Team Jones. That's how you do it. They would have rather won, there's no question, but they lost with phenomenal grace. And they don't need me to be proud of them, but I'm proud of them.
Ooh, Bruce.
Well said.
And Mike.
What he said. I'll go with what he said. Yeah, I mean, I every top level curler, Colleen, myself, Joanne, Brad, and Jennifer, you know, we've lost big games, and it's a privilege to be on that stage. We talk about it all the time, how you work so hard because you want the opportunity, you want to be there, and there's no lack of effort, there's no lack of desire, there's no lack of pride, there's no stone left unturned, pardon the pun, for any of these athletes. They did everything they could do to be ready for the moment. And yes, there's no crowd, yes, there's no, you know, but they're not unique in that. I mean, every team at the Olympics has gone through that. So, you know, what it comes down to is you know, the quality of the character. You know, we saw a lot of that from as Bruce mentioned, you know, to be able to go do that interview. I've done that interview after we lost the gold medal game. It's no fun, but you have to live with yourself. The nice thing about curlers is for the most part, it's not all we do, you know, and you got two skips in Brad and Jen who have tons of experience. Luckily, both of them have won this before. So they kind of can appreciate, you know, what the history and what's going on with the teams that are moving on. But I feel just as like everyone else does, you know, it's a tough interview to do, but there's no criticism. There's no anything from our standpoint. And it's sport. That's kind of the bottom line. And let's not forget the teams that are in the playoffs, the teams that did win, they're phenomenal teams. They're phenomenal teams. You've got the Olympic champion, the two-time defending world champion in the women's side, the European champion, and the Asia Pacific champion. That's who made the playoffs. And then you've got three-time defending world champion in the final, taking on the best team on the planet right now. So, you know, we came into these games with Gushu. It was 1A, 1B, 1C with Adine, Mowat, and Gushu. And you knew you had to go through that gauntlet if you wanted to win. And unfortunately, you got to play the game on the ice. But yeah, and full credit to both teams, all three teams, our mixed doubles team as well. You know, they just did so well and played well. It's just not well enough this week. Unfortunately, that's kind of what happened. But
let's talk about
love watching them.
Let's talk about the last stone draw and what needs to happen in that going forward, Joanne, because while Gushu was able to lose with the brick in his hand, you know, for Jennifer Jones, it was the mathematical equation and just having a lousy week of draw to the button. How much tougher is it to go down that way?
Yeah, that's gotta hurt. I mean, we watched them on the screen waiting for the permutations to play out, and I can't imagine how that would have felt for them. Having something that you feel like draw for hammer is a little bit more controllable than the game. Like you've got your pregame practice, everyone's great drawers, great sweepers. That feels like something that we should be good at. And to have that not be there all week, like that's gotta really sting. So I think we need to make sure, like I think you mentioned, Colleen, that's part of our own championships now. Like we need to make sure that this is a big deal. And I don't know if we started gripping it too tight, like if the players out there were just, I watched the pregame practices, like I can see it from the booth and you see the player go T-line, and then it's time for draw for hammer and then it's way off. And so is that just a matter of, is it a mental thing? Is it just gripping it a little tight? Are we not warming up the path properly? Like there's probably stuff to look at individually for each team. But certainly something that's extremely important. It's like you said, it's a win if you're in that three-way tie.
Right.
But Mike, do we have to throw away our tiebreakers we do in Canada? I know that's sacrilegious to say out loud.
Not to me, it's not.
see the enormity of
No,
the
it's important.
last stone
Right.
draw and create a pressure situation every time you make it, rather than, oh, we've got hammer in the first end, we've won the game.
If you look at the Brier and the Scotties as a goal to prepare yourself best for the Olympics or World Championship, you need to run at the same format. I think that's pretty simple. And that includes, throwing both draws and, measuring everything the same way that they do at the World Championships or the Olympic Games. I'm not as big a naysayer about the draw to the button total, to be honest. The teams all know it's there. And I said, if you just ask Brad Gushu to fall out of bed and draw the button, he's going to be pretty good at it. Jennifer Jones, same thing. So what's the difference? Maybe it's just a bad week. I don't know. The other thing to remember, like I said, that they're playing against phenomenal athletes and they're playing this really, really good team. So I understand why the World Curling Federation does it, but I'm not that big against draw to the button. If I'm being honest about it, it really sucks. But Jennifer Jones had a shot to beat Sweden. She lost that tough one against China. Brad Gushu even mentioned in your interview, Colleen, we didn't do enough during the week to get the hammer in the in the playoffs.
Yep.
And Nick Edin did exactly what Brad Gushu did to Brad Jacobs in the trials final. Brad Gushu had the hammer in the first end of the trials final and played almost a perfect game and was 1 up coming home or 2 up coming home, and that was enough. So, those round robin games are just massively important, and any little blips, don't think that Jennifer Jones or Brad Gushu, when they lost, when Brad lost to Nick Edin in the round robin, he knew that was massive for the hammer.
Right.
When Jen lost to China, that was a tough one to watch. She knew that had really bad implications for playoff chances. So it's just one of those things where, like I said, the teams are also good. You can't take an end off. You can't take a draw to the button scenario off. And the margins are so thin right now. It's just really tough at the top.
Surely, Bruce, Mike and Joe, there needs to be a conversation, though, perhaps about some changes. Does there not, about preparing Canadian teams for the Olympics? Bruce?
Yeah. Devin, this is an interesting one. I keep reading that the world is catching up to Canada. And that verb tense has got to change. The world caught up quite a while ago.
Right.
There are just really, really good teams. And I don't think there's going to be front page stories in the next couple of days. What's wrong with curling in Canada? I don't know if anything's wrong. The world's just gotten really good, and there is no shame at all in losing to these teams. And so I go to Joanne on this. She's actually played it. But from my perspective from afar, we're going to see these articles in the Globe and in the National. What's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong. The world's just really good at it.
But Joe, can we do more to set Canadian curlers up for success?
Yeah, I think we can. I think that our trial system isn't good enough. I think we don't give our teams enough time to prepare. Anna Hasselborg, Tirinzoni, they had 9 months to prepare. They knew in April or May of last year, I believe it was May, that they were going to go to the Olympics. So they had the opportunity to celebrate that, which is a huge accomplishment. And then they had the opportunity to train through and plan and peak once. We're asking our athletes to peak in December. We're asking some athletes to peak in order to qualify for the trials. And I don't think that's reasonable. I think it's not realistic to have someone like they move the trials back 2 weeks. Oh, great. Okay, so now you have 2 months to prepare for the biggest championship of your life versus other teams that have known they were going for 9 months, if not more than that. I just don't think it's reasonable. And like, it's 2 Olympics now where we've had our teams go and they're not going to be super thrilled with their performances. Yes, the world is amazing. Yes, the margins for error is so small, but like Brad Gushu himself said that they didn't play well enough. And I haven't seen Brad Gushu or the whole team struggle like that they did in a few games like they did there. And sure, the ice was tricky, but we've had tricky conditions lots. I mean, we're curlers. We see it all the time. And that wasn't the team that I knew in some of those games. They played great in the semi, like, don't get me wrong, and credit to them for full effort. But I just think we're putting everyone through the ringer. You win the trials and then your life blows up and it's just this crazy whirlwind. And then you get to the Olympics and then you're on the roller coaster. And I just don't think that it's good enough.
And a footnote or whatever, an add-on. what I would like to see an investment in sport, in our sport, is the money in kids, and not just for more coaches or something, but just we need to find the Bruce Mowat team, that youth. Brad Gushue won his first Olympic gold. How old was he? 20. Bruce, you'll remember
25.
that.
25.
Yeah. Where is our 25-year-old superstar right now? And so the way our money goes, all of the great athletes who get the Sport Canada funding, and that's well deserved, they're also heavily supported through massive sponsorship. And the under 25s can't get there from here. And that's, I think, where Curling Canada has to raise the bar of finding within the regions 4 great athletes who are also good curlers, because you can make them into that. And if you take that kind of model and spend a couple of years doing it, because right now the age level of our curlers, and they're so talented, but it's I don't know if you average it out, probably 40-ish when you look at Cooey and Jacobs, and not maybe so much as at the women's level, and Gushue. There needs to be an investment of and support for the younger athletes, and I don't see them on the horizon. Is it just Matt Dunstone and Colton Lott is at that 20? I'm talking the 25-year group.
Mike?
Well, I think that's the big takeaway is I think the dates of the trials are going to change. I think the players have been calling for it for a few years now, and this will make it happen. I hate to say it, but this is going to make it the change. If it doesn't, shame on Curling Canada, as far as I'm concerned. They need to appoint their teams far sooner, give them every chance to prepare. And it's not just the peaking, you know. And just to give people an idea, you know, when we won the trials in whatever it was, November, I went from doing very few media obligations to doing almost an interview a day leading into the game. So that cuts into everything, your life, your practice, your prep, all of this sort of stuff. So like you said, like Joanne said, if you can know 9 months in advance, you celebrate it then, you get all your ducks in a row, you get ready to go, you have your media days, then you can just plan your entire schedule once the curling season begins in mid-September or whenever you want to start, to peak towards February. And there's not that pressure, as you said, peaking once to get in the trials, peaking at the trials, and then trying to peak at the games. It's just a lot.
Mike, maybe that interview you did every day was really your true destiny. We're not Olympic gold, but this career as a broadcaster.
I've milked the medal pretty well, Colleen. I'm not going to lie. It's been good.
That was your training, man.
Guys, we've got to get to Jennifer Jones, because
give Jen a big hug for us.
Absolutely. You've been outstanding. Of course, we've got the bronze medal game coming up at 1 a.m. Eastern time, 2:30 a.m. against the Rock. And I know you'll bring your best, as you have throughout the games. So grateful to all of you.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And we're going to wait on Jennifer Jones. I think she's just signing in, and then we're going to get to the Canadian skipper call.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing about watching Nick Edin last night, though, and as hard as it was for Gushue, I've seen Nick Edin in that situation at the last Olympics when he lost the gold medal. 4 years before, it was a bronze medal. He himself has definitely paid his dues here at the Olympics. So it's sort of, as has just about every other athlete here. So in some ways, Gushue played well, and Edin, it's his time maybe. Although that Bruce Mowat guy's in his way, isn't he?
No kidding. Like we said, really emotional scenes at the Ice Cube yesterday. And of course, the thing that has been going viral, that incredible moment between Jennifer Jones and the Japanese curlers. True class, true grace, true poise. There it is. That is real. That is so real. What a moment it is. Of course, that scene playing out around the world in a moment of disappointment and defeat. Jennifer Jones showing why she's a champion. Let's take a look at some of those scenes from the Ice Cube.
Jen, congratulations. Woo! You're going back to the Olympics. How does it feel?
Unbelievable. It's like the most, I don't know, crazy feeling, and just the way the game happened at the end. Like, it's just super grateful.
I feel like time has almost stood still, and we just get to experience all of these incredible things. And I pinch myself because I feel like we're so lucky, and it's just such a privilege. And I'm super grateful and we get to go to the Olympics and enjoy the experience. And it's always been about pushing the limits and seeing what we could do and experiencing it with my team that's made everything so worthwhile. If we can be a role model to my girls or to anybody out there and get people in love with the game that we loved and the legacy and the impact that you can make, that's bigger than any game we're ever going to play. And it, as you kind of get to towards the end of your career, you realize how important that is as you reflect back on the things that you got to do that you love to do, but it also, if it made an impact, how lucky we are. For me, it was a lot of reflecting about my dad, and just I wish he could have been there. I miss him so much, and he just was such a big part of curling, and I could just hear him in the stands, and he would always get a little teary. And my dad wasn't an emotional guy, but he was just so proud of me, and he would always say after a big win, "You done good, kid," and that's all I could think about.
That brings tears to my eyes. To do this again, I think somehow he's circulating up there.
Yeah.
You know, win or lose, she's a champion. So
Win or lose, she's still your Jennifer. So
you betcha.
Wow, Jen.
Good morning. Did
Good
the
morning.
sun come up?
The sun did come up. It's funny how that happens, isn't it?
Jen, we played all of the journey from winning to this. How are you feeling?
Obviously we're devastated. There's no doubt about it. I just felt like that we were kind of getting on a roll, and I could feel great things happen. And unfortunately, we lost a game to China that we knew we couldn't really lose, and then nothing really went our way yesterday in terms of who beat who. I think the most devastating part is that we don't get to curl anymore. They won't let us back on the ice. It's over. They say it's done, and there's nothing we can do about it.
The last stone draw, when you think about that, it's a different way to be knocked out of a tournament too, isn't it? That's sort of, you're used to, because it's something within that game that you played that you did wrong. Whereas last stone draw, it's just like, what just happened?
Yeah, and that for sure is definitely harder. We knew where we at going in though, so like it's not like we were surprised. We knew exactly what we had to do, and unfortunately for us, we just had a couple of bad last stone draws in the round robin that just equated to us not making the playoffs. And it's hard when you see teams with your record advancing and you're sitting on the sidelines without a tiebreaker game. And I've said it before the Olympics that I just think you should have a tiebreaker game. There's lots of time. We had time to have tiebreakers here, and they just opted not to. So it's a tough one to swallow for sure. I think each one of us looks back, if we get an extra centimeter or two here or there on all those draws, that things might have been different. But at the end of the day, if we'd beat China, we would have controlled our own fate, and we didn't do that.
Jen, there are notes pouring in from coast to coast to coast. People so proud. Can you walk us through those moments where you're watching all of those games play out, and then literally moments after learning your fate, you have this incredible moment that is going viral right now with the Japanese curlers? Can you take us into your mind, there it is, of what you were thinking and why it was important to do that and what you said?
Yeah, unfortunately, when we won our game, I mean, I looked over at the other games and I could kind of see how it was going to play out, and it didn't look like it was going to go the way that we wanted it to go. But I talked to Colleen, and then I was just walking down the rest of the media kind of aisle there, and I saw the Japanese girls, and I just wanted to say congratulations, because they, to me, embody what curling is all about. Their pure joy of sport, their work ethic, their sportsmanship, their just love of the game and leaving it all on the ice. And they were on the roller coaster ride with us too, because if Korea had won that game, they were out. I think it was us and Korea that would have gotten in. So it was like a roller coaster of emotions. And I don't know, it was just kind of something when I walked by, it wasn't something I pre-thought of doing, and I just wanted to give them a hug. And and just say congratulations. Congratulations. You've worked hard and you're in the Olympic playoffs. Like, so proud of them. And I think they're exactly what curling needs. They're just so joyful. And it's what I believe that every kid watching sports or the Olympics should look at, is their joy of the game. And that's what we've tried to emulate a lot in our curling career. And so I just gave them a hug and I said congratulations, and I was proud of them. And they were very, very emotional, and they didn't want to let me go, and I didn't want the hug to be over. It felt like it lasted about 2 minutes, but I know it wasn't that long. And it was one of those hugs that just felt like love. And yeah, and they just said, you were our idol. And I said, yeah, thank you. Coming from you, that meant a lot, coming from them. And I just wish them the very best of luck in the playoffs, and that we would be watching, and that I was proud of them.
Incredible.
That is so nice to hear. And you are so many people's idol as well. So, and I think I told you that in the mix zone after, that you don't need another medal. It would have been nice, but what you've done for the game is just mind-blowing, frankly, in Canada and globally. But in Canada, you've raised the bar so much, and everybody knows it. So
thanks, Chloe.
Thank you for all you've done.
Thank you. Yeah, like it's that means a lot to us, for sure. Like we were sitting actually watching the men's game last night, and some hockey players were there, and they were just talking about curling and strategy, and if you change your strategy depending on who you play. And I said, for us, it's always been about playing the game to showcase what the sport has been about. It's not always been about winning, or not always been about the statistics. It's always been just about trying to go out there and just doing what we love to do, and showcasing the game. And I'm hoping that we've done that. I'm hoping that we've showed fans our love of the game and how much we love it, and that it's an amazing game to watch and be a part of.
Jen, you've talked so much about your girls on this journey, and I'm wondering how important it was to show you carrying yourself in this way to your girls.
Yeah, again, it's not something I think about in that way, because I'm hoping it's just something that I do every day. Try to set a really good example of being a good human and being grateful. And I feel like if you're grateful for life, if you're grateful for your opportunities, then great things are going to happen. But regardless, you're going to enjoy all the special moments that life has to offer. So, but yeah, for sure. Their classes were watching, their schools were watching, and I wanted them to know it was so much more than standing on the podium. The experience of the Olympics is so much bigger than that. And yeah, I know we let people in Canada down, and I totally understand that, because that's the joy of sport. You're living this roller coaster ride along with us, and I'm so sorry for that. And I truly am. Like, but in the same breath, I've also hoped that we showed Canadians that there's so much more to the Olympics than just standing on the podium. There's personal best. There's experiencing so much. There's showing our youth that it's not all about winning in life. It's all about just trying to strive for personal bests. And I did call my kids after, and I said that I was sorry, because I'm sorry, because I really wanted to have a medal to go home and to show their class and their friends. And all Bella said to me is, Mom, you did your best, and we're so proud of you. And so you realize that the lessons that you teach your kid in everyday life, she exuded them. And so I was just so proud of her, and it helped me kind of gain a little bit of perspective.
So well said.
Yeah.
I think we're all taking a moment here with you, Jen.
Sorry, I don't mean to be upset. No, I'm fine.
No, but it's so true. I mean, I always hate the word loss, because yes, sport is about winning and losing. The problem is sometimes as competitors, you attach the word loser to yourself. I lost. I'm a loser. I'm not going to win, and it's such a negative word when you put it on you, rather than just, can we come up with another word than loss? Because I struggled with that. my whole life, but also as a mom, I wanted to show them, you are going to fall on tough times sometime, and you've got to be able to pick yourself up and not let it get you down, which is a cliche. Jen, what happens next?
I don't know. I was going to, when you're saying that, Colleen, I think the biggest thing for me is I can deal with personal sadness. I can deal with defeat for myself. I think the biggest thing that I always struggled with is I never want to let my team down. They're just, I love them and I never want to let them down. And I think when you come to the Olympic stage, you feel like you've let so many other people down. So that's probably where in my mind, a lot of the struggle is that you feel like you've let people down, and that is a pretty, not burden, because it's not a burden, but it's just something that you have to cope with. But that's what I said, like, I'm really hopeful that we've shown so many people and our team that, like, our team had a great time regardless. So, but what's next? I'm not sure. I think maybe we'll go on a trip. Maybe I'll go on a trip and just take a break. We've had a long, it was great 2 months. We had great training and it was so fun. But we basically had to live in an isolation bubble where we took a rapid test every day and hoped to goodness gracious that we did not have COVID, because then our Olympic dreams were over. So it's been since December since we've really seen anybody, except now at the Olympics, I guess. So I think it would be nice to actually maybe just go out for dinner and just maybe see some friends and family. And then next for curling, we'll sit back and figure all of that out over the next little while.
You're getting some offers from Newfoundland and Labrador. They're going to show you a time out there, Jen.
One of my favorite places in Canada. I would come there any day.
Jen, it's so big of you to come on the show. And you and I were texting last night, and you said something so poignant. You said, these are Canada's Olympics too. What do you want to share with Canadians who have had your back and have rode the roller coaster with you for decades now in some of the biggest moments of your life, and have your back in this moment yet again?
Just thank you. I hope you enjoyed the ride as much as we have, because win or loss, it's been just an incredible journey, and it's really shaped my life and who I am as a person. And just thank you. Thank you for making our dream so much bigger than we could have ever imagined. When I was a kid, I didn't have, I wanted to do great things, I guess, in curling, but I had no idea what my dreams would be or what that meant. And then all of a sudden we went and won, and it's because of the fans that made the dream so much bigger than I could have ever imagined. Just the people cheering, and wanting our autographs and the support we've gotten. And obviously there's always going to be people out there that don't support you, and that's okay. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but that's what I said. These are Canada's Olympics too. We're here for ourselves, but we're here mostly for Canada. And so of course I'm going to come on the show and talk. And if any, we're here, we're here for you. And just as though it's just like Canadians were there for us.
So nice. Wow.
So it may be a trip, but then what about another Olympic cycle? Is it too soon to ask that question?
Maybe, Colleen. I honestly, I know they couldn't get over my age, all Olympics, but I still feel like I'm getting better, and I feel like we can compete at the top level. And I just love to compete. I love to play. I love to train. I love everything. And I love being a part of a team. So maybe, not sure yet. We haven't really talked as a team yet as to what the next steps are. So we'll do that over the next little while. But never say never, I guess. I'm not sure exactly. I've got to kind of let this process. And Grandma Carol's amazing, but it does require a lot of assistance from Grandma Carol. So we'll see. We'll see what that looks like. And regardless, I just feel really lucky to have had all the opportunities that we've had, and 2 Olympics and 2 incredible experiences, truly.
Yeah, we love Grandma Carol. I thank you so much for, it's the hug in the mix zone I had with you yesterday, and our cameraman Jacques captured it.
Wow.
We've all just walked a mile in your shoes, a lot of curlers. and we know that we certainly understand the work, but you have, as I said earlier, what you've done for the sport is raise the bar for everybody, but you've also raised the profile of the sport so much. And that's a huge thing, because every other curler now gets to kind of benefit from what you've created for them. So just thank you for your grace coming to the mix zone and doing, a hard interview at a time that you really don't want to talk, but we've all done it. We certainly appreciate your candidness there. You never back away from a question, which is lovely as a reporter.
Because it's also, like I said, we're here personally, but we're here for Canada, and it's our obligation. It's I don't know. It's what we have. It's what we have to do, and I love doing it. Win or lose, it's what a privilege it is to have the opportunity to be in this moment, to have somebody want to interview you, and honestly, Colleen, like the fact that we could leave an impact or a legacy, that means more to me than anybody truly probably will ever know. Like I was just a little shy little girl who loved to throw some rocks, and to be remembered for the sport that I love is it's an honor, really. Yeah, truly.
Beautiful, you two. And as an observer, to watch the two of you share moments throughout this, pretty special, because nobody can have a conversation the way you two can with all the winning you've done.
We should have been in that Super Bowl ad with Tom Jones and Tommy Jones and Keeping Up with the Joneses. Like,
we should have. No, for sure. And it's funny. My family always knows. So, I can usually keep my emotions in check until I get a hug from them. So I usually will wait to do media, and then I'll get a hug, and then maybe I won't be as stoic, we'll say. And when I hugged you, Colleen, it felt like a family hug. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It felt like one for me too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nice.
Jen, any last thoughts?
No, I heard you talking about the timing of the trials. I'm one of the rare people that actually likes the timing of the trials. I really like it's such focused training. It was challenging this time around because we couldn't compete. So there was some, but at the end of the day, like I said, it was probably 8 shots for us that probably turned this thing around the other way. But my last thoughts are just enjoy the moment, everyone. Because win or lose, I know we're going to leave these games with so many fantastic memories. And that's been my motto in life. Just enjoy every second, all the small little moments, the sun rising every day, as Colleen would take these videos of the beautiful, like when the sun rising, all these small little moments that we may take for granted. We came here and we soaked it all up. We enjoyed the Olympic rings every day. We enjoyed the camaraderie amongst the competitors. We enjoyed cheering on the rest of Team Canada. And so even though we're not standing on the podium like we wanted to, we're going to leave these games with some incredible memories that are going to last a lifetime that I'm going to be forever and eternally grateful for. So enjoy the moment. And thank you. Thank you, Canada. Thank you. Thank you for all of those that support us, that are going to have our backs and pick us up, because, truly everybody always needs a pick up once in a while. And for those people, eternally grateful for your kindness, for your generosity of spirit, really, to know that sometimes people just need a little pick me up. And thank you for cheering. Thank you for riding the roller coaster with us. And we're sorry that we couldn't ride it a little bit further.
Oh, you wrote it to exactly where this is the reality, though. You wrote
this is the story.
This is, and even the healing and showing us how to heal. Oof. This might be your biggest victory, that you did it with such grace. I think we, the value placed on winning only is sort of this myth we all buy into. And there's so much more to life, and just what you just said, enjoy the process, enjoy the moment, cherish the blessings. That's what you have taught us through this. And, in the gold medal, what do we learn from wins? We do learn more from our losses. That's my sermon on the mount today.
Well, you know what's funny is everybody will say, what's the biggest defining moment of your curling career? And I always go back to the Canadian junior final we lost, because it taught me how to lose.
Wow.
And it taught me so much about not being scared to lose, because I was so scared to lose that game. I don't even remember the game. I was so not in the moment. And so that game probably defined my career. And so it was that loss, Colleen. I totally agree with you that you learn so much more from. And the one other thing, Anne Merklinger from On the Podium was in the curling stands a lot. You could hear her because there wasn't really very many people. And she's tremendous and amazing. And On the Podium invests so much money into our athletes. And obviously we're super grateful for that. Without them, none of the Olympics really would be possible for Canada. And she looked at me last night when we went to the men's game, and she just kind of looked and just said, keep your chin up. And she said, we're so proud of you. And I felt like we let them down because they're investing, I feel like, in medals, and maybe that's craziness in my part. And so for her to say that, and for her to recognize that we did our very best and that we should keep our chin up, that we could have easily been in the playoffs and could have easily maybe potentially got a medal for Canada, but regardless, just to keep our head up, and she was proud of us. I think that speaks volumes for what I don't know what the Canadian athletic programs are all about.
Jen, this is an unforgettable interview. And I think there are a lot of Canadians that are probably watching this wherever they are, and learning a lot and needing this. And like you said, a lot more than just sport at play here. So I know at the show here, we're so grateful for you.
Oh, thank you. I didn't get very much sleep last night. We stayed up. We weren't even doing anything. We just stayed up and we're chatting and just trying to talk about a little bit of the fun Olympic experiences. So it's, I thought I was a little tired this morning, but
yeah, thank you for getting that, because it's hard to sleep after what you went through.
Well, when Devin first said it's 8, I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. I'm up anyway. And then, I just want to say thanks to you guys for covering curling, for having a curling show. Like how far curling has come. Like when I first started curling, women didn't even get to play on arena ice unless you made the Scotties.
Wow.
And now there's a curling show. There's still, we've still got work to do. I know. We still have a work to do to try to, get it to increase the exposure of the game, and make sure that women's curling is still growing as much as we possibly can and not kind of forgotten. But there's it's because of you guys that are helping kind of help the profile and help people understand the work that we put in, and that we're human beings as well, but 2, that we're just dedicated athletes.
Jen, we're going to send you all the curling show apparel.
I don't have one. So yes. I would love one. And I see people are asking if we're staying for closing ceremonies. 1000%. We're going to be walking and celebrating all of Team Canada. And so we're here for a few more days. So you'll see us in the stands. We're going to go and cheer the Canadian men on today in the bronze medal game. And I think I have the privilege of going to the women's gold medal curling game. And yeah, maybe we'll go and we'll do that, and hopefully maybe go to the mountain, cheer on any Canadians we can, and see what happens.
Well, as Anne said, chin up. You're a champ, and you've done your country proud, Jen.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for all the support. Thanks, Canada.
Yeah. Thanks for being with us, Jen.
Thank you, Jen. Wow, Call.
Yeah, just such a true champion. Everything, so much wisdom. She got it from her mother, obviously. And we've had Carol on so many times.
Right.
Tough loss, so much grace. And I think that's the teachable moment for everybody, that it doesn't always go the way you want it. And you have to find a way to accept and bless it and move on and learn from it. And she talked about learning from that first junior final loss they had to Kelly Scott. And what growth, what trajectory that set her on. So you can learn from all of this. All of us can.
Sophie, producer Soph, Call, Jen was talking about a curling show. hard to believe, but on Saturday, our final show of the Olympics, we will be celebrating our 1-year anniversary of this show.
Oh,
And so
really?
it's incredible. It feels way more than that, if you ask me. But of course, we would love to celebrate with all of you curling fans. This just continues to be such a honor and a privilege to be able to share space with these champions and share these vulnerable moments. And let me just take a moment, Call, as I cut you off, just to say, as a reporter, I know how challenging those interviews are in those really raw moments. You have done such an incredible service to the curlers.
Oh, well, thank you, Devin.
Yeah.
You're the best at it. So I've learned a lot from you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to get a coffee or tissue after this show.
Whew. Okay. So let's pivot. At 1 a.m. Eastern time, 2:30 a.m. across the rock. I know you're all going to be watching Guju and the boys taking on the Americans. It is for a medal at the Olympics. And as Guju said to you, Call, they're going to treat it as if it's a gold medal game. It's probably one of the harder games when you're a Canadian playing in hockey and curling at the Olympics. But you can be sure that Guju is going to give it his best. 1 a.m. tonight. Then, of course, the women's semis at 7 a.m. And the gold medal game for the men's tomorrow at 1 a.m. Eastern. Call.
And let's not forget that John Schuster, who was the reigning Olympic champion, lost a very hard game to Great Britain. That one was nip and tuck. He scored. He stole 2 to open that game. We're always talking about if you have hammer in the first 10, you're going to win the game. And then Bruce Moat bounced back and eventually won the game. Where I'm going with this thought is that Schuster's in the same bout as Gushue. Devastated that they've lost the opportunity to play a gold. And he's going to have a hard time kind of parking that loss and then getting up to play. But both of them in the mixed zone talked about how much they want to win that bronze medal and that they're going to be playing hard. So I think it's going to be another epic battle, frankly, that and pressure on both teams.
2 past Olympic champions now fighting for a bronze medal. We can't leave the show without talking about that great Canadian win over an American team, the women's hockey team winning gold. So that was not a silver lining, a golden lining.
That is a golden lining
to yesterday.
Yeah. And let's think about what that team learned in 2018 when they won the silver and vowed they'd be back here. And they had a lot of adversities this during COVID times when they were in Truro, Nova Scotia to play their world championship. And they were on the eve of that only to have public health cancel it. And so they were devastated by that. And then they had to go and pretty much work from the time, when did they hold their worlds? At a very odd time in August. They got no break.
Yeah.
They just had to keep plugging away. So to talk about perseverance and talk about the joy of winning because the heartache of loss, they all knew.
Wow. Really good stuff, Call. And I appreciate you so much. It's just awesome.
You.
It's awesome to do this.
Appreciate you. So we'll do it all again tomorrow.
Cheers, Call. Cheers, curling fans.
Cheers to you. I'm going to go off. The sun has just risen here, or a couple of hours. I'm going to go have my breakfast now.
Enjoy breakfast. Enjoy dinner, curling fans, and enjoy the bronze medal game. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.